Hello all of you little demons, Jules here for Live and Let's Dice, and I've got a very special video for you today because recently I was invited by the developers of the upcoming video game Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance to get a little hands-on preview of the game, and I have actually played it. I have some thoughts, I have some opinions, shock, horror, and I'm about to share them with you today. The good, the bad, and the slightly mad. And also, apologies, I've just realised here on my thing, my looks like a hurricane has passed over my hobby desk at the moment. I've got an upcoming Warhammer tournament that I'm preparing and painting for frantically, so apologies if that's a bit of a distraction. But still, let's get on with the main show and talk about Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance. So let's start with the basics then. What is Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance? Well, it is a 4-player online and off experience where you and a few mates can take on multiple adventures and go through all of the back catalogue of nasty critters from the Dungeons & Dragons universe as you slay for pay and get lots of sweet loot, level up and take on even more challenging bosses. It is, at its core, a pretty generic formula, one that we've seen before, but there are a few elements of this game that elevate it to become something much more enjoyable. For a start, I enjoyed the fact that there's a range of different classes that you can choose from, and each of these classes can be changed and manipulated to suit what you'd like. So while there's no divergent things of having like a Nordic person who is clearly a barbarian suddenly turn into the team's healer, there are little things that you can change about their weapon and loadouts to make them more sort of customized to your playstyle, which is great. I like that feature. The graphics as well are also pretty good. Admittedly, when we played the game, it was me and a few other online journalists, we were playing a build of the game that was actually a few months back down the line. So we were told from the start that when we were playing this across Parsec that there was going to be some graphical issues and things that might not be, well, hopefully would not be in the final launch of the game. So the footage that if I'm showing you any right now, just take that with a pinch of salt because it's something that they are directly addressing. One of the interesting things about this, and something that I feel describes the tone of this game perfectly, is very recently, yesterday as of the recording date of this, they released a trailer, new gameplay trailer, the developers of the Dark Alliance, and it's got a voiceover by Jermaine Clement, who's from Flight of the Conchords, and a lot of people were saying that this was quite a strange voiceover to have, but I feel like it sets up what this game is perfectly, better than anyone else could explain, and that is, it's bringing the fun back to Dungeons & Dragons. Now, that's not implying that Dungeons & Dragons is stale by any means, but there's a sort of a leaning towards the dark and depressing, especially in the play groups that I roll with. It's trying to bring the fun back and put that front and center. It's saying to you that this is going to be an enjoyable experience. This isn't going to be dour and sour of you slogging through a Dark Souls-like grind. This instead is about you and a mate kicking back, having some fun and taking on bosses that have the fantastical dialed up quite a lot in their presentation and their mannerisms. For example, in the gameplay demo that we got to take part in, we went and took on a butcher who was this massive, like fat, slovenly cook who was chopping up other animals and creatures that was from the lair that it was within and turning them into a big soup. Didn't look very tasty. Definitely needed some more salt. Now, when we got to fight him, he basically lumbered over, very big and fat, and immediately it was set up to be like a more comedic affair. We had the battle going on, he was yelling insults at us, and finally when we took him down, he fell over, stabbed himself on some of the sharp instruments that were lying around his kitchen. He stabbed himself, fell backwards into a lava pit, and as he was dying, he put the middle finger up at us as one last thing. And it was at that moment that I was like, okay, so Dark Alliance is not going to be one of those games that takes itself too seriously. Thank God. I appreciate that more than ever because at the end of the day, this is all meant to be about fighting, fantasy, and fun, and that's what Dark Alliance delivers in spades. I really enjoyed the combat as well about this game. It feels a bit light in places, like when you're mashing a lot of combos together, it can feel like enemies maybe don't react to every specific hit that's coming in and more sort of like the priority hits, so For example, if I and a person, one of my teammates, are attacking the same enemy, if they hit with the highest damage dealing output in that chain, it will react to that one, like it will stun them from that hit, whereas the other attacks you're doing they're kind of like hidden off their fleshy mass. Which is fine, because obviously if you completely reacted to every single hit, you would end up with an enemy that could possibly be stun-locked into oblivion, but still, it was interesting to see that some attacks would be reacted to and some attacks weren't, and sometimes it caught me a little off guard when the creature would suddenly just turn and brush you off, even though you're like, I'm stabbing you, I'm literally stabbing you in the lung. Everyone has their own special attacks and unique combos that they can pull off, and I like the fact that there was a mixture kind of reminiscent of Dynasty Warriors in this, because the fact that you were able to do like light attacks, then mix them with heavy attacks, then back to light attacks again, and then finish with a flurry of your own personal character's special moves. I thought that was a really nice touch. So it made the combat feel very fun, maybe not reinventing the wheel, but I don't think that it ever aimed to do that. I feel like it's competent, and that is like not a compliment that has any sort of detractory element to it. I think that it works really, really well given the setting of this game. I also enjoyed the amount of variety in the enemies that you had and how each of them presented a different threat. So we came up against some like goblin-esque creatures, some big brutish trolls, and there were elements and variations within those two brackets that ended up providing quite a bit of a challenge, actually. For example, the goblins, they had your sort of more stoic defense sort of things, and they had some of them that were at the back with shields and armor. They were defending others. They were providing support buffs. There were some that were throwing magic bolts at us from afar, others that were throwing bombs, or worse still, ones that die and then explode afterwards, meaning that you need to constantly warn your teammates about who you're taking on and when, because the explosions definitely did a lot of damage to us. The amount of times that we were down because one of these cheeky guys was dropping this bomb at the end like it was a Call of Duty 2 perk. Man, they'd like party wipes at some point. We had to have the developer who was running with us just going like, don't worry boys, I'll pick you back up again, I'll pick you back up, dust you off again, try that again. I really like this because it all promoted communication, which is something that I feel potentially is lacking in a lot of online co-op games. Surprisingly, you get a lot of people that go in there, they do the job, they take the reward, and then they piss off, basically. Here, though, it felt much more organic to be talking to a teammate saying, okay, I see these 3 enemies over here. You go over there and take them out because your character is also long-ranged. You'll be able to pick them off while we move in without taking enemy fire. I played as the tanky sort of Nordic-looking guy, barbarian, and he was able to rush in, tank a lot of damage, so I was able to go toe-to-toe with some of the big boys and then basically use my special move in order to absolutely obliterate them, because it combines with like a rage meter bar that fills up, which allows you to enter a state where I was doing double damage, I wasn't getting stunned, I was receiving half damage, so I could just stand there and just take hit after hit while delivering out the same. And I liked that I was constantly communicating with my teammate to tell them that I was doing that so that they could work on other areas, or they could protect me, they would warn me if they were coming in. And again, like I said, if there was environmental hazards like exploding barrels or bombs, then I was being kept in the loop. Hopefully, that carries over into the actual main game when it's released, because the communication there is key. Especially on higher difficulties. We played through at like difficulty level, they did it in like stages of like different points, so we played like a difficulty stage at level 0.1, and we were like, this is easy, we breezed through it, we got a lot of loot, we changed a few bits of armor and like upgraded our stuff, we had a look in the shops and saw what we could customize, break down to make new, better equipment and such like. And then we were like, okay, let's step it up. Put it up to level 2. I jokingly said, put it up to level 4. And they put up to level 2, and we got absolutely decimated. If it wasn't for the dev that was running alongside us and keeping the party alive with his character's ability to resurrect as a group and provide healing buffs, we would have been dead in the water. It was alarming at how quickly we died. And the fact that this thing scales up to like, I think they said it goes up to level 10. We were a long way off getting anywhere near that. But we did manage to get through in the end, through luck, determination, and exploiting the environmental hazards that are in this the boss stage. We managed to get through in the end. So that was a big win for us. I think that also speaks to another element that I really liked, which was there's a ton of environmental effects that you can have on. There's mild platforming elements where you were jumping over lava platforms and stuff. That was quite fun. If you fell in, you take a lot of damage. There was fire traps and spike traps that were there, but you could also use these to lure enemies in and then activate the traps so that you would be able to do massive amounts of damage that otherwise you might not be able to do. The butcher, cook, chef, boss at the end, for example, he fell prey to the fact that he had 2 fire pits either side of him, and we kept him within this thing, so when it turned on, it was doing lots of chip damage, setting him on fire, and in the end, that actually won out the day because we were just pushing him back into the pit. Just like, we can't do enough damage to kill him, and he's killing us in one hit. So we're just like, go, get back, get back, get back. So I really enjoyed that. I love the multiplayer aspect of this. I love the focus on the fact that there's short levels with boss challenges at the end. That seems to be what they're going for. When we spoke to the developers after the session, they said that each level will take between 50 minutes to 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the difficulty that you're playing on. And I like the fact that it's short bursts of intense action, because it encourages replayability. You'll go through again, try something else. You'll know and learn where all of the treasures are in the items, so you can go there and farm them again and again and again in order to get better items and equipment. Now, do I think that this will encourage like a grind mentality? I no more so than the average like MMORPG or even RPG that are going on. Like, you do go back to certain areas and farm quests and areas for stuff. I would potentially have liked because I can't remember if they told us how many different levels they had. I know it was quite a large amount of levels, but I did worry a little bit that maybe you might end up cycling through the same 4 or 5 if you notice you get a good run or this has a decent spawn rate. So I'm hoping that they'll do something to address that. Maybe put them like 2 or 3 of them in a playlist so that you run through all of them back to back for a bigger reward, so it increases the risk as well. Because I feel like let's face it, gamers are the sort of mentality where if there is the path of least resistance with the most reward, we're going to always take that. I mean, it's why exploits and cheats are so prevalent in the gaming community. Hopefully that's something that they will have addressed there. I think that in terms of the negatives, if we were talking about what I didn't like about this, I feel like the graphical settings aesthetically were pleasing, but possibly a little bit generic. Like, we were in these giant halls underground that looked like they were directly ripped straight from Lord of the Rings, which is ironic given the correlation between the Lord of the Rings and the Dungeons & Dragons setting. I know they're heavily influenced, but it didn't feel particularly striking in a way that felt unique. I felt like I had been through those dungeons in many other games before, so hopefully the environments will be able to shock and amaze in the ways that I hope they will. The gameplay trailer showed off a load more biomes and different settings, so fingers crossed that is something that we'll get a bit of variety in. I did think that the crafting system of breaking stuff down, of getting lots and lots of gems, basically, I wonder if they're going to use this to put in, like, I know that they said that there aren't going to be any microtransactions, but they might offer a way to gain more currency in-game, which might allow you to buy better stuff. And it does seem like it's geared towards you're going to need a lot of gems in order to upgrade your loot to anything significant. So there might be some not pay to win, but there might be some microtransactional adjacent stuff going on there. But apart from that, I feel like it's a really solid title. I walked away from it feeling that I had a great time. It was definitely elevated by the fact that I was playing through with people online, and there was a lot of like camaraderie, and we were talking quite a lot, and I hope that that will carry itself over into the main game as well, because I feel like this will live and die based on the group that you're playing with. If you are running through those halls with a group of people who aren't talking, you're not going to have as much a fun time, because you're going to open yourself up to environmental attacks, you're going to get backstabbed, you're going to have a lot of stuff that's going to go wrong. So you need to have a good set of friends when you're playing this. That is true for most games as well, though. Apart from that, though, really fun time. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the fact that the developers seem very committed to pushing out a lot of content very quickly. There's 2 free DLCs that are coming out shortly after its launch, and then they're going to do sort of like paid expansion stuff for that. Hopefully not all the best of content will be saved for that DLC. Fingers crossed we get a good glut of stuff to keep people going. cycling through, and that the end game of this title is addressed very early, because we've seen in the likes of Outriders and a few other ones where they've just stalled for time until they can actually add in something worthwhile towards the end. I hope that this isn't the case. But when you look at the amount of monsters and creatures that you'll be fighting as well in this, there is a huge selection. I do feel like they've done the IP justice in that sense as well. So to break it all the way back down to the key points, does it look good? Yes, it looks good, if potentially a little bit familiar. Sound and design, really appreciated that. There was lots of like crisp sounding sound effects going off. I love the crackle of the lava that when you run near it, the sort of like heat like coming off of the flames. It was nice, really enjoyed that as well. Plus the voice actor who did the butcher, top job, because it was just like, what are you doing here, mate? That always gets a kick out of me, that does. Gameplay, really enjoyed it. Weighty combat, lots of dodgy mechanics, the ability to use spells, arrows, lots of equipment that you would find in your traditional Dungeons & Dragons adventure, but possibly a little bit too floaty when it comes to combos. It's kind of one of those things where that can be balanced and tweaked very easily with just a few back-end changes there, so I'm not sure if that is a valid criticism, but it just felt a little bit floaty sometimes. What else is there that you usually address in a in a preview thing? Did you have fun? Yes, I had a ton of fun. And will I be excited about the release of this game? Yes, of course I will, because it's Dungeons and Dragons inspired, so I feel duty bound to be excited about this. Plus, it's Dark Alliance, man. Like, I've got history with this game, and I want to beat every single bad boss that's in it. So yeah, I'm gonna take it to task when it comes out. We'll probably stream it here on Live and Let's Dice. Me, Mikey and Lawson will form the terrible trio. We'll get Beanie involved as well. The gruesome foursome. That's not a rhyme at all. The awesome foursome. And we will ride out together and destroy in the name of Live and Let's Dice. But yeah, that's been my first impressions of Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance. A good game on the cusp of greatness. Just needs a few tweaks here and there. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Are you excited about this game? What bosses are you looking forward to taking to town? Let me know down below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or you can swing by here, but on Twitch. Live and Let's Dice on Twitch. We do all of our streaming of other games and stuff like that as well. So go check us out on Twitch. Give us a follow. Be a good lad. Love ya. As always, I've been Jules. You've been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.